our lives are not as normal as other people that haven't been abused. The abuse has just changed their attitude to life, changed their attitude to people. But as abuse victim myself, I'm glad that it's all out in the open now, that everybody knows, the whole world knows, and the Catholic Church knows, and they knew all the time, but they can't deny now that they do know, which they have done throughout years and years and years of their silence. And instead of taking action when they knew the abuse was taking place, they could have saved lives upon lives, and the torture for families and children, and just their silence just has ruined more lives that you could think of.
Il fallimento delle autorità ecclesiastiche, vescovi, superiori religiosi, sacerdoti e altri nell'affrontare adeguatamente questi crimini repugnanti ha giustamente suscitato indignazione e rimane causa di sofferenza e di vergogna per la comunità cattolica.
There was an expectation that I'd be pleased that the Pope was acknowledging the cover-up. Well, acknowledging something that's been long proven.
I think it was very important that he, you know, when he was on the altar, that he admitted it and acknowledged it.
I think it was smokescreen. I thought he could just come in and out and everything would be okay, and love and peace and God. It was the complete opposite that he got.
He said he is keeping bishops accountable, he is removing bishops, but I said to him that he may have removed some, but they're being allowed to resign and walk away, so nobody knows that they have been guilty of anything.
You know, you only have to do a few Google searches to see loads of examples of popes and bishops saying, we didn't know. Like the rest of society, we didn't even understand such things were possible. They did, they lied.
En août 2018, le pape François s'excusait pour la première fois publiquement à Dublin pour les atrocités commises par des prêtres de l'Église catholique irlandaise. 500 000 fidèles étaient attendus, seulement 130 000 se sont déplacés, contre 1 million il y a 40 ans pour la venue de Jean-Paul II. Une visite historique controversée, tant le malaise est encore prégnant. Depuis 2002, différents rapports et enquêtes ont mis en exergue plus de 15 000 cas d'abus sexuels. Un fléau que l'Église peine à éradiquer, tout comme elle peine à faire face à ses responsabilités devant la loi et envers les victimes. Devant les centaines de suicides qui ont fait suite aux abus, ceux qui ont réussi à y faire face ont été nommés les survivants. Martin Gallagher est l'un d'entre eux. Pendant son enfance, il sera abusé sexuellement par Eugene Green, un prêtre de la paroisse de Donegal, au nord-ouest de l'Irlande. À ses côtés, un autre Martin, Martin Ridge, ancien inspecteur de police, le premier qui écoutera son histoire.
When we were younger and abused, there was nobody to talk to that we could trust. The priests we couldn't go near. They would laugh at us and call us liars. We couldn't tell our parents because they would have to go to the priest and he'd do the same thing to them. We couldn't tell the guards because the guards and the priests and teachers were all big buddies and they stuck together, so we were alone. Martin here came along and started to investigate Eugene Green, and that opened up a big page in our life because it released a lot of pressure, anxiety, depression, all those bad feelings we were building up for years. So just by talking to Martin the first day, that lifted a big load from my shoulders, that somebody was going to help me in the end.
I would like to say, like, the likes of Martin speaking out, breaking that silence bond, like, and it's not easy, it takes courage to trust somebody, because the rejection and the isolation they felt from society, and even yet, it is horrendous, so it takes good courage to keep that strong resolve up for themselves.
En 2008, Martin Ridge publie Briser le silence, un livre qui retrace l'enquête qu'il a menée contre le prêtre Eugene Green entre les années 60 et 90. Il y accuse l'Église catholique de n'avoir volontairement rien fait pour stopper ces décennies d'abus, alors que des plaintes avaient déjà été déposées à l'encontre du prêtre.
I was glad I was there for them, because they educated me too, and they're educating society, because those people are experts, because they know what they're talking about, you see. So again, Martin doesn't need my platitudes, but I'm so grateful, and so is the public, for the likes of Martin, and thank God he's getting his own life back on track, and it's not easy. We all have bad days, and it can come back and grab us with fear and contempt and everything, but we have to be careful too, because anger can be self-destructive as well, though maybe it's good to hold on to some of it too, to realise what's going on, I would like to say thank you, Martin, again and again and again.
L'histoire de Martin n'est pas un cas isolé. La majorité des victimes ont déposé plainte à Dublin, le plus large diocèse d'Irlande. Entre 1975 et 2004, dans la capitale, 12 prêtres étaient responsables des 2/3 des plaintes déposées. Pour lutter contre ces dérives, le diocèse a mis en place en 2002 le service de protection de l'enfance aux côtés d'une agence dirigée par l'État. Ce service est à disposition des victimes afin de leur offrir une aide et de recevoir leurs plaintes. Andrew Fagan en est le directeur et le coordinateur depuis 2010.
When it became known that, priests had behaved in an abusive way towards children, that was understood as a problem for the priest, not as a problem for the child or for other children. And for a long time, and it's not as if the diocesan authorities didn't do anything about those situations. They did do things, but they were all about trying to fix up the priest and send him back. And they were not child-centered. They did not prioritize the safety of children.
Aujourd'hui, ce service permet aux victimes d'engager des poursuites contre des crimes qui ont parfois été commis il y a 50 ans. Une fois la plainte reçue, le prêtre incriminé est convoqué. Si l'archevêque le juge responsable, il est directement démis de ses fonctions et une enquête civile prend le pas sur l'enquête du diocèse. Pourtant, certaines victimes refusent d'en référer à la police. Dans ce cas, c'est au diocèse de déterminer ce qui doit advenir du prêtre. Un conseil, constitué par des juristes canoniques, psychiatres, avocats et police locale, est chargé de donner une recommandation à l'archevêque. C'est lui qui aura le dernier mot sur la décision à prendre.
People with young children, they have this dilemma about, is it safe to bring my child to church? Is it safe to allow my child to become an altar server or to be in the children's choir? Because even though lots of things have changed, I'm not sure that perception has changed. I think that a lot of people still think it's a bit risky to allow your children to be involved in church activities. So I would say that there are a lot of parents who have made a decision to distance themselves from the church.
La sécurité est désormais devenue centrale dans l'organisation de la vie religieuse à Dublin. Ce service de protection de l'enfance assure une surveillance active au sein même de l'Église. Frank Reburn est un prêtre de la paroisse de Glasnevin, au nord de la capitale. Il met en pratique les directives du diocèse et comme tous les prêtres en Irlande, il a reçu un test psychologique avant d'entrer en fonction.
If I'm meeting with parents and we're preparing their children for the sacrament, say for confirmation or for communion, we will explain to the parents that we have a child safeguarding policy in action here in our parish.
We would say they're safer rather than that they're safe, because we don't know everything that there is to know. And one of the things, you know, that Archbishop Martin would always say to us is that we can't afford to be complacent. You know, what we do is good, but we have to keep doing it, and we have to be very serious about it.
There's always a risk. Once you have children and once there's adults around, there is always a risk. And I think that's very important. We can never be complacent. Never, always making sure that best practice is in our parishes. No adult is alone with a child. You know, especially here in our own parish, in our sacristy, no adult is alone. That if children are on the premises, we make sure that they're under the care of those who have been Garda vetted and those who have completed the training course. Also, if you have any visiting priests, if you have anybody coming into our sacristy, they are obliged to sign in. And we also, like me, we would ask parents, we'd ask guardians of children not to let their child go to the toilet on their own, that they stay there, that they stay in the public area, just making sure that their child is okay. You know, it's been a horrible chapter in the history of the church and in our lives. So it's a really horrible chapter. And I remember when the Archbishop wrote out to us, when the Murphy report came out, and the Archbishop wrote out to us, and he asked us to read a letter from the altar. And I remember standing up in the altar, and I just managed 2 lines, and I broke down and cried. You know, just what I read in that, and what I'd read in the Murphy report. I couldn't read his letter. I was just too upset by it. You know, so I would be hugely passionate, and I would do anything that I possibly could to make sure no child is hurt in this church.
Si l'Église doit aujourd'hui se repentir, c'est aussi à la suite de grandes révélations, comme celle de Darren McGavin, 48 ans, survivant d'abus sexuels. Son agresseur, Tony Walsh, est actuellement en prison pour le viol de plus de 200 enfants de la commune de Ballyfermot, où Darren grandira dans un contexte familial violent.
At the age of 7, when I went to that school, he became the parish priest. So he was adorned. He was also an impersonator of Elvis Presley. So he was in a thing called the All Priest Show, and they went around the country in halls and clubs. They got paid.
Stand on my blue suede shoes. You can do anything over here for my blue suede shoes.
So everyone thought, isn't he brilliant? Isn't he great? How amazing is he? And then when he talks on the pulpit about his Lord Jesus Christ, Jesus is my friend. I'm going to save you. He went home and told me parents. So the dirty secret was out. I now know you're beating that child and your wife. So now both my parents, which were adults, were vulnerable to the priest and in his pocket. Because he knows their dirty secret. So the priest suggested that I take your son out of this environment because you've damaged him. He's acting out. And you're beating him more, and you don't know how to deal with him. If he comes with me, I can teach him love, and he can serve morning masses, or we'll bring him to lovely places. Take a bit of pressure off you. To somebody, a mother of 5 children, they were all going mad, and the husband was very rarely there, and when he was beating the shit out of her. That was brilliant. My child is safe. What if I was to tell you that a young boy was tied up over a coffee table, bound by his hands to his ankles, and noticed a candle burning, a thin one, but just thought it was a clerical candle. And while I was told that I'd burn in hell for all eternity, I was raped with the burning candle.
À l'âge de 12 ans, le jeune Darren réalise devant un documentaire sur la pédophilie que ses échanges avec le prêtre de la paroisse n'ont rien de normal. À partir de ce jour, il consultera une pédopsychiatre avec une peur en tête, que le juge ne croit pas son témoignage lors du procès.
the lady gave me the doll and says to me, "Can you show me what happened?" And I said, "You want me to stick me cock and me penis inside the doll in front of you?" And she said, "What?" I said, "But you told me to show you. So you want me to like rip the doll and ride the doll?" She goes, "No, just show me." I said, "I don't understand." I said, "I'd have to do it." I said, "But you said it was wrong. So why do you want me to do something that's wrong? I don't understand that." So they were like, "That kind of makes sense. We didn't come across that before." So I said, "How about just asking me what happened?" So when I was asking, I had to keep asking them and taking the tissues at 12 and saying, "Are you okay?" Because I had traumatised them. To me, it was okay, because I was used to it.
Aujourd'hui thérapeute auprès de ceux qui ont été abusés, il est aussi le survivant de 5 tentatives de suicide. Darren fait partie des maigres 10% de victimes qui ont évoqué leur cas aux autorités. En 2014, dans une interview accordée à la Repubblica, le pape François évaluait à 2% le nombre de prêtres pédophiles au sein de l'Église, incluant évêques et cardinaux. Pourtant, dans le cadre de l'enquête Spotlight à Boston en 2001, Richard Sipe, psychiatre et ancien prêtre, parlait de 6%. Selon lui, un pédophile dans l'Église abuse 250 victimes dans sa vie, ce qui représenterait pour l'Irlande 280 prêtres pour 70 000 victimes. Des chiffres qui auraient poussé l'Église à dissimuler ses abus.
The way that the church conducted itself and the hypocrisy and the corruption at the heart of the church was revealed, and that led to people in Ireland rejecting the moral authority of the church. It led to an end of the political dominance of the Catholic Church here in Ireland. You know, for decades the Vatican called us liars. You know, they said we were telling lies, that we were fantasists, that this was an anti-Catholic agenda, that there was no cover-up. So now the Pope says there was a cover-up and we're meant to think he's great for acknowledging the truth. That's the minimum.
Les excuses du pape ne sont donc pas suffisantes. Les survivants reprochent à l'Église de couvrir ses méfaits et de ne pas participer à la reconstruction des victimes. Certains ne veulent plus jamais avoir affaire à l'Église, d'autres, comme Brian Maguire, membre de Voice of the Faithful, une association de survivants toujours croyants, ont baissé les bras face au manque d'implication des institutions religieuses.
The bishops are, how would you say, tired of this phenomenon, tired of having to deal with what they see as the challenges that come from the past. But I think, and we who were involved in the Voice of the Faithful got tired as well. Tired of trying to deal with a clerical institution that didn't want what we were trying to offer. So people found other ways of acting.
Marie Collins est aussi une survivante. Dans les années 60, elle a été abusée et photographiée par un prêtre. Il lui faudra 25 ans pour parvenir à en parler et 10 ans de plus pour obtenir réparation. Très active dans le domaine de la prévention des abus et des dérives pédopornographiques sur Internet, Marie était un des symboles de la commission pontificale anti-abus instituée en 2014 par le pape François. Elle s'est vue confrontée à la résistance de l'Église au sein même du Vatican et démissionnera de cette commission en 2017.
The commission was experts outside the church, child protection experts from every area, brought together to advise the Pope, to bring expertise into the church from outside. And I went along with it because if the church was sincere in wanting to change, I thought that I should work to help. But I found after a couple of years that there was so much resistance in the Vatican to change. They were undermining the work of the Commission, they were resisting the work of the Commission, and really we were making recommendations, the Pope was approving them, and they were not being implemented, so it was a waste of time. The Curia, the civil service, the Pope's civil service, they saw us on the Commission as people coming in from the outside and interfering. And I think we were sort of stepping on their toes. They thought it was not right for people coming in from the outside. And also there is that pro and anti-Francis split in the Vatican. So people who don't want to support what he's doing, they would also have been resisting our work. The importance of child protection was ignored, really. It was more politics.
The biggest risk to children is societies or cultures that refuse to accept that the risk exists. And if we're not prepared to admit the truth that's been revealed, to own it, to see it, to know it, and to respond to it, of just how corrupt and evil and wrong and deliberate this cover-up was on the part of the church, then it's going to happen again.
I've worked more in the area of prevention and trying to protect children today from becoming victims and becoming future survivors. I do believe, of course, that everybody needs to be helped. I mean, I would not be sitting here today if I hadn't had 2 years of really good therapy and been able to overcome what had happened to me as a child. But I believe it's not only the church, of course, that has to do something about protecting children better. Society has to protect children better.
En 2015, le mariage homosexuel est voté dans le pays par référendum. Puis en 2018, le pays révoque le 8e amendement de sa constitution pour permettre le droit à l'avortement. 70% d'Irlandais se disent encore catholiques. Ce sont donc les mêmes qui ont voté pour ces deux réformes situées à l'opposé des directives de l'Église. Ces chiffres soulignent un paradoxe. La société irlandaise reste culturellement catholique, mais s'éloigne de l'Église en tant qu'institution.
On keeping my own faith, yes, I've kept my own faith, and my beliefs, but the institution of the church does not mean that much to me now. The institutional church has really, I've lost all trust in it. I still have a relationship with God, and I will still pray, and I still consider myself a Catholic.
Great question, do I have faith? I don't have religious faith, but I have, I suppose, an even greater faith in humanity, in goodness, in life, in healing. An even greater faith in something that I know to be true, and that is that no matter how awful the harm done, no matter how awful the offence caused, that if we're prepared to own it, to face it with courage and with truth and with compassion and with love and with a commitment to moving forward, then healing and recovery and progress isn't just possible, it's inevitable. And that this I know, this I have unshakable faith in.
La répétition des scandales qu'a vécu l'Irlande a créé une fracture entre les croyants et les ecclésiastiques. L'Église elle-même connaît une crise interne dans ses institutions. En 2018, le Séminaire national n'a enregistré que 5 jeunes hommes se destinant à devenir prêtres. Face au manque de candidats, l'Association des prêtres catholiques d'Irlande a évoqué l'ouverture de la prêtrise aux femmes. L'Église est amenée à se réinventer.
I think this, in some ways, there's an opportunity for the church to acknowledge its place at the margins of society, and even in a way to turn back from being the church that builds on top of the hill to being a church that helps people who gather at the bottom of the hill.
There's a lot of arrogance in the church. I'd like the church to get back to basics more, and not the whole scandal of abuse has happened because the church was more interested in protecting itself as an institution than it was protecting children. So I think the church needs to get back to being pastors and be a pastoral church rather than this big global institution.
I think probably the future of our church in Ireland, maybe we will have smaller congregations, not as big as we used to enjoy here in Ireland. Ireland, gone back not too long ago, would have enjoyed very large congregations. Even my own church, it was built at a time when you could fill it nearly 4 or 5 masses every weekend. My own church holds 1,900 people. You certainly wouldn't get that now.
La décision récente du pape François de lever le secret pontifical sur les affaires de pédophilie montre un désir de transparence au sein du Vatican. Désormais, les plaintes et témoignages concernant des abus sexuels dans les archives du Saint-Siège pourront être consignés aux autorités civiles. Cette collaboration montre une volonté de chercher la vérité au profit des victimes. Elle vient cependant s'entrechoquer avec d'autres problématiques, telles que l'ordination d'hommes mariés ou l'homosexualité au sein de l'Église, qui divisent les opinions sur l'origine réelle du problème.
And it's the living in silence which is the most awful thing. And for so many victims, it's been too much, and they've taken their own lives, as we know. So we have to think about the countries where this is still happening and think of the children there.
If the church wants to be really the light of the world, it needs to show how it can make light from these very dark places.